Good evening, students. Today's session is a very important topic on Indian polity. We are going to discuss about the presidential elections in India. A very uh, difficult topic, I will say, because understanding the procedure of the presidential elections is difficult. And there are a few questions that usually students have in their mind when they follow this. Now, today's session, I'm going to tell you the process of electing the President of India, the Electoral College of the President of India, and why this process is so complicated. I mean, what made the constitutional makers use a process which is so complicated. Now, let's look at this. The President of India is elected indirectly, and the system is called indirect elections, and the system is called system of proportional representation. This is the election system that we use, system of proportional representation by means of single transferable vote. Representation by means of single transferable vote. Single transferable vote. Now, the first question you should ask is, what do you mean by proportional representation? What is the meaning of the term proportional representation is the first one. See, proportional is basically the word proportion we use to indicate in what proportion, meaning that it is with respect to how much you're giving and how much you're getting. So, what is proportional representation here? Here, proportional representation is of the states in India and the people in India. When we talk about the states in India and people in India in presidential elections, it is as simple as if this is 100% votes in presidential elections, 50% of it goes to comes from states, and 50% of it comes from people represented by the MPs, okay, of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. So basically, proportional representation here means that 50% of the entire vote value in the presidential election should come from the states in India. 50% of the entire vote value in the presidential election should be coming from the people of India represented by the MPs of parliament. Why like this? Because the president is not just the president of India, the president is also the president of the states in India. That is the reason why, with the respect to the states, president has certain special powers in the constitution, like you cannot introduce a state's reorganization bill without the recommendation of the president. I'm sure you all know this. A state in India cannot be created without the president recommending the bill to the parliament. Likewise, president can impose state emergency. There will be some special responsibilities on the president with respect to certain states according to the clauses in Article 371. So, like this, there are several provisions where the president has special duty towards the states. In a way, this actually is also a feature of federal form of government in India, because in electing the head of the country, in electing the head of the states are also represented. The states also have a role. So it is a feature of federal form of government. This is about proportional representation. Now, how is this ensured? Let me first give you a practical example of how it is ensured, and then I'll tell you about the procedure of election. See, basically, imagine you have three states, okay? State A, in which you have 10 lakh population, 100,000, yes, 10 lakh population, and it has about 200 MLAs, okay? Now, what am I doing? I am dividing 200 with 10 lakhs. So, the answer I get is 5,000. 5,000 is considered as the vote value of each MLA from state A. Meaning, if I am an MLA of state A and I cast my vote in the presidential elections, it will not be counted as one, it will be counted as 5,000. Likewise, take state B. Imagine state B has 20,000, it's only 20 lakh population, and state B also has 200 MLAs. Okay, now what do we get? Here we get 2 and this would be 10. So, state B, each MLA's vote will be counted as 10,000. Okay, take a state C. Imagine state C has a 50 lakh population and 250, which means 25 to 20,000 is the vote value of each MLA of state C. Okay, so this is the basic vote value. I'll tell you why vote value. I'll tell you all this. First, listen to the example. 5,000 into how many MLAs are there? 200 are there. So what is the total again? It is 10 lakhs. Okay, likewise, imagine we have only three states for a sample into 200. Okay, this would be 20 lakhs. And imagine into 250. This would be 50 lakhs. Okay, together it is 80 lakhs. Okay, imagine we have 800 MPs. Putting together both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, we have 800 MPs. Okay, so this 80 lakhs I am going to divide by 800 MPs. Each MP's vote value, irrespective of the state he represents, will be 10,000. Okay. Into how many MPs are there? 800. How much are you getting? 80 lakhs. Now, what do I mean by this? Simple. I said 50% of the vote should come from the states. According to my example, what is the total vote value of all MLAs of the states? It is 80 lakhs. Okay, likewise, what is the vote value of total MPs in Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha put together? It is 80 lakhs. This is proportional representation in case of presidential elections. 50% of the vote value should come from the states and 50% should come from the people. Now the question is, why like this? I'll tell you why like this. So imagine we have 28 states and around 3 union territories with legislative assemblies. Together, roughly, we will have more than 5,000 MLAs. I'm just giving you a random figure here. Okay, now Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha together, we have around 780 MPs. Okay, now tell me if I have to calculate each vote value, MLA's vote value as only one, then MLA's vote value will be much, much higher. It is 4 times, 5 times, 6, 7 times more than MP's votes. Meaning you have more MLAs, so you know their votes will be greater. They'll have a greater say in the election of the president. But we don't want that. We want to give equal importance to the votes coming from the states and the votes representing the people of India. That is the reason why this mechanism is evolved. So what happens in presidential elections is first we calculate the vote value of MLAs. MLAs of each state. Please remember this. We calculate the vote value of MLAs of each state. Now, this is called as principle of equality. Why? Because the method of calculation of the vote value of MLAs is the same. And the formula used is total population of that state of the state. Please remember here we use the 1971 census data divided by total number of elected MLAs. Now you have only elected MLAs into 1 by 1000. Use 1 by 1000. This is very, very important. Now, why do we use 1 by 1000? Because see, India has huge population. Imagine if we don't use 1 by 1000, the whole calculation will get very complicated. That is the reason why we use 1 by 1000. It is basically to reduce the calculate, I mean the number to ease the calculation. Okay. Now, once you do this, remember again, I'm telling you the method of calculating the MLA vote values is the same. However, the determinant of an MLA vote value will be the population of that state. So, obviously, a state with more population will have the MLAs will have greater vote value. Okay. Now, once we do this, then what we do is we sum up the vote values of all MLAs of all states, okay, and then divide it with the number of elected MPs. This gives us the vote value of MPs. And please remember, this is called principle of parity. Parity is also in the sense ensuring similar circumstances or similar conditions. So parity at par, of parity. The vote value of MLAs and the vote value of MP should be at par with each other. Should be equal to each other. That is the reason principle of parity. Once you do this, the third step is elections held. Okay. After elections are held, the fourth step is counting. This is where you use first before counting, you first calculate the quota. Okay, this is step A in counting. Quota calculated. Now, what is quota? Here, we take into consideration total number of valid votes polled. We are not talking about the total number of votes. We are only counting those votes which have been polled. And remember, valid means those members who are, for example, a member is disqualified. He cannot vote in presidential elections. Even if he votes, it is invalid. So, like that, valid votes only will be counted. A member has not taken, he's just elected as an MLA or MP, not taken oath yet. As MLA or MP, he cannot vote. Okay, divided by number of candidates to be elected. How many presidents? Only one. Plus one, plus one. The number that you arrive at here, that is called as the quota. Whichever candidate gets this quota will be considered elected. Once the quota is calculated, they will actually start counting. Imagine in the counting, this situation arises. This is again a very hypothetical example that I'm giving you. Imagine you have three candidates, and in proportional representation, you don't cast a vote. You indicate your preferences. This is very, very important. Usually in Lok Sabha and state legislative assembly elections, what happens is if I am voting, I go and cast my vote, meaning my vote, I will only select one candidate. I cannot select more than one candidate. But if you're going and voting in indirect elections where proportional representation is followed, you don't select one. You indicate your preferences. If I am a voter, I'll say B is my first preference, C is my second preference, C three is A is my third preference. Likewise, another voter will say this. Another voter will say this. Okay, another voter will say this, and another voter will say this. Now, if you see, there is a tie. Only the first preference votes will be initially counted. The tie is between B and C. So A is eliminated, completely eliminated. Now we have to decide between B and C. B has two ones, C has two ones. Now this voter's vote will go waste because A is eliminated. Therefore, this one will become zero. This will be taken as one and this will be taken as two. This is called a single transferable vote. Please remember this is used only when no candidate gets the quota in the first count. Gets the quota. This is very rare. It does not usually happen because the party which is ruling in the center is ruling in more than 50% of the states in India. It has absolute majority in the center. Whichever candidate, whoever is supported by this ruling party, will automatically get the quota. He'll get the votes required to fulfill the quota. So usually we don't use it. This is called single transferable vote. That is the reason why we say in proportional representation, votes are every vote counts. That is how it counts. So this is how you arrive at a majority. Now, after, please remember, single transferable vote is not used in every presidential elections. It is optional. Only when nobody gets the quota, then it is used. And finally, declaration of results. So this is the procedure followed in India to elect its president. I hope the procedure is clear. I wanted to take up a topic which is considered usually tough. Many students have a problem understanding presidential elections. So that is the reason why I felt this should be a good topic. I hope you're clear with what is proportional representation in presidential elections. 50% of the vote value should come from the states represented by the MLAs. 50% of the vote value should come from the people represented by MPs. And in order to ensure that there is equal vote value, we do not consider each vote as one, and but we assign a value. And this is how we assign a value. First, MLA votes are calculated, then MP votes are calculated to ensure that together they are equal, they are at par with each other. Okay, and then we have the single transferable vote, which is not used in every elections. It is used only when it is necessary. So this is about presidential elections. The class was clear. Hope you benefited out of this video. I'll see you again tomorrow with the next new topic. Thank you.